Hey everyone, it's Dan with TechRunner. I came across an old list of FCC cybersecurity best practices recently, and I recognized just how many of them still apply today. That's all of them. Maybe not in a one-to-one, to-the-letter kind of way. There's always some modernizations, but the intended functionality and fundamental of each practice apply now more than ever. The point being, the fundamentals haven't changed much, but we still need to practice them. Much like Tiger Woods goes to the driving range, Paul McCartney runs scales, LeBron shoots free throws. So this month's video series aims to deliver the current best practices and provide a modern refresher on the fundamentals of cybersecurity. Train your team. Security awareness training is a great way to refresh yourself and your team on the methods that hackers are using to try and steal your money. Most people are familiar with email scams to some degree, but it's super valuable to keep the scam tactics front of mind. Not to mention, more and more insurance carriers require security awareness training in order to even qualify for coverage. Secure and update your systems. Old school definition-based antivirus and manual monthly system updates just don't cut it anymore. Real-time endpoint protection and response software are a necessity to combat the ever-evolving ransomware threats that we all face. System patches and critical updates get released every day, so we must perform daily patch management and testing to defend our businesses correctly. If your system no longer receives updates or support from your vendor, it's time to find another system. This is the modern standard. Firewalls. Sounds like an old word, but they're relevant now more than ever. Firewalls are the protectors of your network and devices. Best practices call for a firewall to protect the entry point or edge of your network and another on your device itself. With the explosion of work from anywhere, we believe that protecting your device is more critical than that physical firewall that traditionally protects your business network. While the location of a firewall may have adapted with the times, the functionality has evolved even more. Let's talk about mobile device policies. Now, device encryption and password policies on your iPhone are default settings now. But much of the mobile device security that we strive for can be configured within the cloud where that data actually lives. So enforcing app requirements like all employees must use Microsoft Outlook for email, no more Apple Mail. That helps contain company data and enforce the security policies. Data loss prevention takes it a step further by restricting how users can interact with that data. We want to ensure that if the device is lost or compromised, that there is no concern for data theft. Backups should be a no-brainer by now. Every byte of business data should be encrypted and backed up to cloud storage every day in real time where possible. Real-time system failover is the ideal scenario. Never assume that your cloud provider backs up your data. Most don't, and that includes Microsoft and Google. It is your company's responsibility to back up your Microsoft 365 data, as well as make regular backups and exports of all of your critical SaaS applications on a regular schedule. Let's talk about physical access and privilege. People are a part of your system, and accountability and audit history are more important than ever. In order to manage that system and resolve issues, we need to know who makes changes, who opens a database, who deleted a file. This is a big reason why every person needs their own user account. It also prevents password sharing and helps you enforce multi-factor authentication. Securing your Wi-Fi. That gets taken for granted a lot these days. Wi-Fi is not a ubiquitous thing. You have to secure it starting with a password. Easy enough. For extra security, you can require those devices on your network to be manually registered in order to connect, like guest list at a club. You're on the list, go ahead in. You're not on the list, have a good night. Guest Wi-Fi networks also need to be isolated from your business devices. Thankfully, most modern systems have a method to ensure that your guest devices can't talk to one another or anything else on your company network. But it's important to configure these things and ensure that you have these rules in place before you get a rogue device on your network which suddenly has access to everything in your organization. Payment card protection. Do you have credit card machines? Why not isolate them and then protect them on private networks, restricting them only to what is required to process those payments? Lock it down. Although your processor handles the actual transaction, your business is still responsible for PCI compliance reporting, and you're also subject to those fines should a breach occur from inside your place of business. Take the extra measures and secure those devices. It's a phenomenal way to reduce your risk. Limit employee access and authority. A policy of least privilege is critical to ensure the safety and reliability of your business systems. Simply, this means that users have access to data on a need-to-know basis. Minimizing access reduces the risk of data loss, unauthorized viewing, and exfiltration. Preventing users from installing software protects against unauthorized apps, i.e., a few people using Slack when the company is supposed to be using Teams, potentially malicious software, and breaking critical functionality. Least privilege is not a punishment or a sign of mistrust directed at your team. It's a practice to ensure that everything works as your business requires it to. It applies to interns and it applies to CEOs. Passwords. Multi-factor authentication, complex passwords, password managers. That should be the roadmap for every member of your organization. Your technical team should be enforcing IP restrictions on your apps, limiting access to only known locations, like you can only log in from your office network, or work from home, or when you're connected via secure VPN service.